Dolphins fans, help us win this contest here at Chat Sports this month. We're competing to see which channel can get the most subs to turn on their notifications. Right now we're at 16.4%. Let's get to 17%. Go down, turn on your notifications, and if you're not subscribed, let's change that. Hit that big red sub button. Dolphins Today is presented by Aura, a all-in-one digital safety tool. If you go to aura.com/chatsports, you can start your 14-day free trial today. I am Will Scott. Welcome into Dolphins Today. We're going to be breaking down some free agents that the Dolphins could potentially go out and sign. Bleacher Report posted an article about 3 players that make sense for the Dolphins, 3 free agents that they should consider bringing in. Some pretty big names they talked about, but maybe also some surprising names as well. They did not mention an offensive lineman as one of those 3 names. Now, who do you want to go down? Who do you want to sign? Go down in the comments section and let me know which free agent you want to bring to Miami. We're into July, middle of July at this point, and there's still plenty of big names out there and available. I do want to mention this report, though, before we get into the show, because we mentioned the Mike Gesicki, contract talks, that they haven't really engaged in those. Adam Schefter reporting this, that the other franchise-tagged tight end, Dalton Schultz and Dallas, are not expected to reach an agreement on a contract extension before tomorrow's 4 o'clock deadline for franchise players per sources. So looking like the Cowboys and Dalton Schultz are not going to reach a deal. We're about 24 hours from the deadline. The Dolphins and Mike Gesicki have until 4 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow to get that deal done. Just another reason you should turn on your notifications, because the second we learn of anything about Gesicki, we're going to make a video. Let's get into today's show, though, and we begin with our first free agent target mentioned by Bleacher Report. That would be Jason Pierre Paul. They say that the Dolphins should consider bringing in the veteran edge rusher who last season wasn't nearly as productive as in previous years. However, he's still someone you can bring in, maybe add some depth to that defensive line. Here's what he did last season in 12 games. 31 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 5 QB hits. The season before, he had 8.5 sacks, so it just wasn't the same production we saw from Pierre Paul. However, he did miss 5 games. That's worth noting. Here's what BR said about Pierre Paul. He's coming off 4 seasons with the Buccaneers. He was effective in the pass rush in 3 of them, as he recorded over 8 sacks in each campaign. However, he managed just 2.5 sacks in 12 games last season. At age 33, Pierre Paul could provide some depth on third downs and in certain situations in which Emmanuel Ogbah is off the field or is occupied by multiple defenders. Miami needs more than one defensive lineman to produce over 5 sacks to be competitive with the top teams in the AFC East. That production could come from any of the reserve defensive linemen on the roster, but the Dolphins can also solve that by bringing in a veteran on a cheap 1-year deal. So when you look at the current defensive line depth chart, to be quite frank, I think Ogbah and Wilkins are both going to have well over 5 sacks. I think Zach Sealer could have over 5 sacks this season as well. I don't disagree with their point that they need to have multiple guys, getting that number. Raekwon Davis, this is a big year for him. And then I have Melvin Ingram on this depth chart. Obviously, he's going to be playing the linebacker position, that outside linebacker spot as well. He's going to be kind of rotating back and forth between the defensive line and the linebacker position on the outside. Now, do you want to sign Jason Pierre Paul? Type S for sign or type P for pass down in the comments section. It's the pinned comment on today's video. When an ad break comes, go down. Let me know what you think. Do you want to bring Jason Pierre Paul to the Miami Dolphins? I would say that depth is important. I think Bleacher Report is right to say that. But there are bigger needs to fill on this team, like the offensive line. I do not think that general manager Chris Greer's top priority right now should be bringing an edge rusher to Miami. You signed Melvin Ingram a few months back at this point. It feels like not that long ago, but it is. So I feel pretty confident about the edge rushers right now on this team. I don't disagree, though, that more defensive line depth you can't go wrong with that. You also can't go wrong with this deal we're giving you with Aura. You can get your 14-day free trial at aura.com/chatsports. You do more online now than ever before. Aura does more to keep you safe. I barely go to the store anymore. Everything I purchase is online, and it's so important to stay safe online. And if you run into a situation where you aren't safe online, that's where Aura comes in. They're going to give you near real-time alerts on suspicious credit inquiries. So if you're in Miami and somebody, let's say in California, bought something on your credit card, Aura is going to alert you the second that happens, because I think a lot of us don't check our bank accounts as much as we probably should. Aura is going to do that for you. You're not going to have to worry about going in, checking your online banking account every day. Aura is going to protect you from fraud. They're going to protect you from hackers. You got to take advantage of this 14-day free trial. You can get it at aura.com/chatsports. That link is in the comments and the description of this video. Our second target that we're talking about is Carlos Dunlap, someone who has been linked to the Dolphins many times throughout NFL free agency. We've talked about him before because back in May, his agent Drew Rosenhaus said he had talks with Miami about signing both Dunlap and Akeem Hicks. Since then, Hicks has signed with Tampa Bay. Dunlap, however, is still available, and he has been extremely productive throughout his career, especially last season. Even at the age of 32, he played in all 17 games for the Seattle Seahawks. Here's what Bleacher Report said. Carlos Dunlap II may be the best available edge rusher on the free agent market behind Trey Flowers. Flowers likely too expensive for the Dolphins, so that focus could turn to Dunlap, and others to provide depth behind Emmanuel Ogbah. Miami could use an extra edge rusher to deal with the talent it will face across the AFC East, including Josh Allen and Mac Jones. Here's what he did last season, and I was pleasantly surprised when I was looking at Dunlap's production because he's aging, but he is still a very, very good football player. 35 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 14 quarterback hits, 8.5 sacks last season. However, he remains unsigned. I just don't know if Dunlap makes sense right now. I think he would have made sense before Melvin Ingram. I feel very similarly to bringing Dunlap in that I do, Jason Pierre Paul, like I just said. I feel really good right now about the edge rushers. If I add depth, I want it to be at the nose tackle position. I think you need more depth there. I don't know if you need more depth on the outside. I also don't know if you need more depth at wide receiver, which is why I was a little bit surprised to see T.Y. Hilton on Bleacher Report's list. Now, T.Y. has been linked to the Dolphins before because he grew up in South Florida, went to FIU. He's still available in NFL free agency, one of 3 free agent targets mentioned by Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report said that the Dolphins should consider bringing in Pierre Paul, T.Y. Hilton, Carlos Dunlap before training camp, which starts in the next 2 weeks. But, of course, the Dolphins already have a lot of depth at wide receiver. BR says the 4-time Pro Bowl selection may be able to bridge the gap between Hill, Waddle, and the rest of the wideouts on this depth chart. Cedric Wilson, Preston Williams, Lynn Bowden Jr., Eric Ezukanma fill out the spots behind Hill and Waddle at the moment. Here is the current wide receiver depth chart. Right now, you have all of these guys on the team, and there are going to be a couple that get cut. There right now, and there's a couple UDFAs not mentioned on this because we don't have room on this graphic, but right now you have 12 wide receivers on this roster. Only 6 or 7 are going to make the team. So if you bring in T.Y. Hilton, maybe one of your younger guys will have a spot taken away on the 53-man. Bleacher Report continued with this. Miami would be risking the development of those players and the potential for them to have a breakout season, but it would not be the worst thing for the Dolphins to add a little more experience at the position to have a well-rounded unit that could rival the other playoff hopefuls in the AFC. No disrespect, I don't want T.Y. Hilton. I get it. He's a South Florida guy. He has ties to the area. He's from there, but he's washed. He's just not the same guy that we saw earlier in his career in Indianapolis when he was going for 100 yards a game and he was a Pro Bowl caliber player. this was the least productive season we've seen from him in his NFL career. Just 331 yards, 3 touchdowns. If you look at what he's done in the last 4 seasons, his production has gone down significantly. 2018 was the last time we saw him in his prime. Over 1,200 yards, and then since then, he just has not been the same player, probably why he's still out there and available in free agency. If you want to sign a wide receiver, I wouldn't be super against it, but there's certainly better options. But again, I would rather have guys like Lynn Bowden Jr. competing for a spot on this roster. If you sign T.Y. Hilton, that would take spots away from the younger guys. I don't want that. But if you had to pick one of these 3 to sign, who are you taking? Type JPP for JPP. Type CD for Carlos Dunlap, or type TY for T.Y. Hilton. Go down in the comments section and let me know which one of these 3 guys you want to bring to the Dolphins. Again, the Dolphins have cap space to work with. I would not be surprised if they made another move before training camp. Now let's get into some more news. There's an update on Sean Payton, and obviously Payton has been linked to the Dolphins a lot throughout the offseason. Even after hiring Mike McDaniel, we've heard a lot of rumors about Payton, kind of what was going on behind the scenes. So let's kind of recap what's going on with Sean Payton. Was obviously linked to Miami during the Dolphins coaching search. Was actually kind of more linked after the coaching search. More rumors came out about him, but there was a recent report a few weeks ago that the Dolphins prepared to offer him a 5-year, $100 million contract. And then Barry Jackson reported today in the Miami Herald that Payton would be interested in the Dolphins next year. Here's the report. He talked to a source. The source emphasizing that Payton would never lobby for a filled job, said Miami is among the teams that would interest him, and he knows that firsthand. But the associate said that he could also see Dallas and the Chargers among other teams that would interest Payton should their jobs become open. So here is this report from Barry Jackson, the teams linked to the Dolphins. He talked to a source that is in Sean Payton's circle, very well connected with both Payton and the Dolphins. Number 1, the Dolphins. That is the team that would probably generate the most interest if Sean Payton wanted to come back to coaching. Dallas Cowboys are another team that should be linked to Sean Payton, and I don't really think Mike McCarthy's the guy in Dallas who does, so they might have a vacancy next year. And then the LA Chargers with Justin Herbert, another team. So those are the 3 teams in this article that were linked to the Dolphins, or linked to Sean Payton. Here is the rest of the report, or at least some of it. So what exactly is Payton looking for? The associate said warm weather, a roster good enough to compete, most importantly, control over personnel decisions. Having a good quarterback would be helpful, but that isn't the number 1 or number 2 factor, the associate insisted. Look, Sean Payton is a great football coach. If you have an opportunity to get him, if you have a vacancy, then yeah, you should get Sean Payton. I do not believe the Dolphins are going to have a head coaching vacancy after 1 year of Mike McDaniel. I have the utmost confidence in Mike McDaniel. I understand the fact, and a couple of y'all were saying this in the comments yesterday, and I didn't agree. And I agreed that he has a lot to prove. I absolutely agree with that narrative that McDaniel has not proved anything yet. He has a lot to prove as a head coach, but I do believe he is the guy for Miami. I think he's going to be a great coach. He's already changed the culture. The locker room is behind him. I think the Dolphins are going to go out there and win games in year 1 of Mike McDaniel. But if you had to predict where Sean Payton is going to coach in 2023, go down in the comments section and let me know. Is it the Chargers? Is it the Cowboys? Or is it the Dolphins? Go down. Let me know where you think Sean Payton ends up. Could be a broadcasting booth again. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching Dolphins Today. Appreciate you all watching and subscribing to the channel. Again, tomorrow is the deadline for Mike Gesicki. When that deadline passes, we are going to post a video with or without a contract extension.